Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to another edition of Court Call with Ronnie Nunn. We have a lot of things to go over, and as we don't want to forget, Ronnie was an NBA referee for 19 years, was for 5 years the head of officials, and for 3 more was the director of development for the NBA. So, Ronnie, thanks for coming on the show. We got some things to talk about, don't we?
Yeah, always something, especially during the playoffs, are always highlighted even the more.
I'm a little bit concerned because it does seem a little bit more vociferous than the criticism these days, and I wonder if it sounds louder to you this year than other years.
It does a little bit. I think some of the plays have been unusual, and sometimes you're stepping into stuff and it gets a little bit more smelly, and then it becomes tougher, and the staff becomes a little pressured to do well and get us off the snide, so to speak. And I think there's a pressure issue, along with some other things that they need to establish again, which is mechanics. Stay away from external philosophies of things, and get right into the core of the work, and that's what's very important. And I hope they get better at it.
For sure. Well, let's break into the OKC San Antonio game from the other night, because there were some controversial things happening on the court that we could go through. The first thing that I caught in my mind was with 5:53 left in the fourth quarter, there is a pin down set for Danny Green by old man Tim Duncan. And we've been talking about screens all season long, particularly with the Golden State Warriors. And Danny Green gets free in the corner for the three-point shot, which was a crucial shot for them at the time. And Russell Westbrook ends up on his fanny. What do you see here, and what do you think about that screen set by Tim Duncan?
Well, it's definitely an illegal screen, and there's always a reason for mistakes. And if you notice, the official is lined up with Duncan. And in that position, he really can't see Duncan's lateral movement as clearly. He may think, the defensive player will look to go into him, or something of that nature. But if he went a little inside, when you have a screen like that, you're looking to see his lateral movement. You got to get kind of in front of him or behind him, but you can't stay even with him, because it's very difficult to see that movement. So here's a little pickup I think he needs to recognize. All screens on the baseline, you can't stay even with them, guys. You got to get on the inside or on the outside, and then you'll see lateral movement, because this is an obvious offensive foul, and he should get this with a piece of cake.
Yeah, that's a great observation there. So he needs to be on the end of the Antonio rather than where he is there. And then also the feet are too wide, right?
It's really the movement. I mean, he does move towards the baseline and catches him. So it's an illegal screen. And like I say again, on screens, you got to go one place or the other to view this lateral movement when you're dealing with baseline screens, and you're the guy that's responsible for it.
Right. Well, if it makes OKC feel any better, that's a tough shot that Danny Green got, and he hit it, and Adams was in his face. So it wasn't a completely successful, opening for a shooter. He had to hit a tough shot. So when we move a little bit farther into the fourth quarter, in a more crucial moment of a tie game, we have a very similar play on the baseline here, where Steven Adams gets to set a screen. This was a really controversial thing because it was a bang-bang. It caused other things to happen. So what are you thinking, Ronnie, on this one with Adams' screen down by the block?
The initial screen, it seems to be okay. The problem is that Adam turns back not knowing where the person he screened is, and he sticks his left leg out, and he trips Green, and Green trips himself into the shooter. So that movement, it's the old adage in refereeing which says you must see a play in 3 points: the start, the development, and the finish. And when the screen was legal initially, the eyes of the official all of a sudden left the screener, and all of a sudden here's a subtle move that's kind of cute, probably purposeful, because guys try to get a little bit wider to get to free that shooter. And sure enough, he trips him, and then all of a sudden he falls into the shooter, which is a foul. Very subtle, very unusual, but again, stay with the basics, and you will get your play.
Here's the one issue: the slot official at the bottom of our screen is shielded, can't see it because Tim Duncan's in the way. Monty down on the baseline is not looking there. He's simply looking at the shooter. You can see his sight line's pretty high. The only other guy might have been the trail official on top by the hash mark, and he looks like he's also sort of looking at the shooter and at Kevin Durant. So, that is a tough one, and it's unfortunate because I thought originally it was the screen itself was a real problem. But you know what? It seemed to, after I watched it a few times and people yelled at me on Twitter, I kind of felt like, okay, that was okay. But yeah, there can't be any, as far as I'm concerned, there can't be a discussion about the intent. That is the traditional, what we've seen all year from the Warriors, the screen and then kind of back up like, oh, I'm just getting out of the play. But that's a really big left step. And I'm just surprised that they didn't catch it.
I like your term about this all of a sudden this extra little piece that comes along and then really I'm not doing anything. But the main problem here is mechanics. And if you'll notice, the official up towards the scorer's table is far too low. He is in between both the defender and the offensive player. So you need to get up and take a view. That trail position is very important. I don't see it working as well as I would have liked to have seen it work when I was involved. That was a transition I was making for the staff. It's still a very important spot, but it also can be a spot where if you're not in position, you're completely out of extra plays or another coverage, an extended coverage. If he gets out and watches the screen where he will see the second part of that. And then all of a sudden call something. Again, don't forget your lead official is very tight and close. So he's already left the screen thinking that the initial was okay. Right. And here's something subtle that comes after. Well, somebody's got to help because guess what? That's the only play happening in town.
Absolutely.
At that juncture.
And we on the replay, you can see his eyesight is also already not looking. He's actually looking like he's looking across the court. He gets obscured after he comes around. We can't quite see what he's looking at the moment of the trip. But again, really unfortunate that it had to end up into free throws instead of just a contest of a shot, and maybe he makes or misses it. Kind of like the Danny Green. Okay, Danny Green makes it. You give it to him. That's a tough shot. But here we never got a chance to find that out. So
no, and because Monty is definitely good with picking up his shooter. That's his coverage. After that screen, that's his coverage. He just moves too quickly. But by the same token, his eyes move. But at the same token, there's four players there. When you're involved with four players, you need dual coverage, and that's a little tip for the guys. And let's see if it helps them.
Great tip. Well, that leads us to the last play of the show, which is a crucial moment where the Spurs are down by 1 and the Oklahoma City Thunder have the ball. So it's clear to everybody in the building that they need to foul and stop the clock. The worry here is that if you don't, sometimes the whistle is slow, whatever, guys will just slug the guy to get the call. So he's going to grab him around the waist. No whistle, and ultimately leads to a three-point play. What do you think about the grab around the waist by Kawhi and how that wasn't made a call?
I was disappointed in that because I understand the fact that if the rhythm, speed, balance, quickness of a player offensively is not deterred, then you let the play go. If you use those 4 letters and words that come with it, you can begin to learn how to referee, just the basics. Now, there's no question that hold around the waist deterred that. It stopped the rhythm, the speed of the player to the hoop, and he should have reacted to that. But I think he also didn't realize the focus of the fact that a take foul is also a potential play here. And that take foul, if you want to categorize it as that or you want to categorize it as a basic hold at any time in the game, you can't let certain plays go. And here's another situation where maybe the philosophy of thought on allowing play to go and finish to the hoop and also the other part of a take foul, these two things have to be combined. And clearly, at this time of the game, you got to think take foul. So there's a focus break here, like in the synapse somewhere. And I don't know if the guys talked about it, which they should have prior to the throw-in, about the potential of situations and the coverage. So unfortunately, I really think, again, this is not because the talent's not there. It's because the buildup of what should be thought about was not there.
Absolutely. And then the weird thing was, the only explanation for LaMarcus Aldridge is simply that he was shocked, wasn't prepared, that they didn't call the foul, because he had a chance to wrap him up as well. And as a result, I'm not even sure. Like, there almost could have been a way where they could have mitigated that by just like the ball goes in and it's the Spurs ball down by 3, which is what, it probably would have happened either way. But what do you think about the foul call on a little bit of a, nudge underneath on that for a layup?
Well, that nudge, first of all, let's not forget that Aldridge is also in the restricted area on a play that starts outside of the lower defensive box. And he bends. If you watch when the contact occurs, if you stop your shot, your screen, the screen shot, you'll see that he bends over, kind of undercutting a player driving to the hoop. And it affects Westbrook, although he has his own bends going into the hoop on drives anyway. But in this play, he's a restricted area defender in a problem. His bending is a problem. I know he swiped for the ball. I think he was in shock and not ready to play defense, thinking maybe that call was going to be made because that's what the conversation was about a take foul in the huddle. So he's kind of out of it, but he is a fouler for 2 reasons: the bending over and the fact that he starts in the restricted area and doesn't get out. So it's just a double whammy. That call I can live with. It's the other that precedes it that's the problem.
Absolutely. Well, it's unfortunate that these kind of things happen in a Game 5 of all games, which is usually the crucial one that decides the series. Whoever wins that usually wins the series. So it's a tough thing to swallow. And, the Spurs are going to have to be really resilient, put it out of their minds, and come back again tonight for Game 6 and hope that maybe they get a different shake tonight.
I think they're going to get a very concentrated look on both teams because that crew is going in there knowing that a couple of other crews had some serious issues. So the alert's going to be there. Again, along with the alert, the pressure of making sure that if you make mistakes, God forbid you make a third mistake on the same team. Mistakes are mistakes, and they're not really geared to any particular team or the what's happening with the play in terms of how many games one team has won or how many games have won the other. The key is your constant adversary in officiating is getting plays right. That's who you're scoring against. That's who you're scoring for, getting plays right. And you've got to raise the level of consciousness on these items, and you got to get there. I mean, these guys are at positions now that require high level competence, and there's a little slippage here and there. I'm unfortunately have to say.
Well, we'll find out what happens tonight, but hopefully I want a Game 7. I just want it because I'm greedy and I like more games. So we'll see what happens tonight. It should be a fantastic game, so don't miss it. And thanks for coming on the show, Ronnie. Really great stuff. And don't forget, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Ronnie?
I'm in, Coach. Thanks for having me again.